Why don't we go ahead and get started? So, welcome everyone. I am Carla Quinn. I'm on the board for CCO. Welcome to Growth Rings, which is the Center for Coaching and Organizations Learning event. So, before we go any further, I want to remind you all that Zoom offers closed captioning. So, in the toolbar at the bottom, click on the CC icon live transcript and click on the box at the bottom to enable live transcription. If you have any questions, please go ahead and raise your hand. So, CCO, as we call it, is a 501(c) nonprofit organization founded by a group of experienced executive coaches and organizational leaders to unleash human potential through coaching in organizations. So we unleash potential by inspiring people to find their voice, supporting leaders to shift their mindsets and solve complex, messy problems with grace and clarity. Growing leaders who bring the power of coaching to their organizations and the communities they serve. Expanding access to coaching and organizations for all. So one way that we expand access is through our growth rings learning events. Um, and all of the offerings that we have are on our website under events. So we invite you to go check that out. If you're not on our mailing list already, you can sign up there as well. Another way that we expand access is through our ICF accredited executive coach in organizations, or ECHO program that we like to call it. So cohort 10 begins in late August. So there is still time if you're interested in coach education. We would love to talk to you about that. As Bev pointed out to me last night, lots of people do more than one coach education program. So even if you're already a certified coach, if you're looking to try something different, we welcome that as well. So we have a couple of other fun things going on at CCO that I'll mention, and then we'll jump into Jessica's conversation. We just rolled out peer coaching, and so that is an opportunity to expand and scale coaching within your organization, where we take a group and we teach those leaders how to be peer coaches together. So there's information out there on Eventbrite. So we welcome you to take a look at that. So without further ado, we can jump to the main event. I had the pleasure of meeting Jessica through a LinkedIn networking situation. So we are a success story. It really does work sometimes. And so she was gracious enough to accept my invitation, which led to lunch and flourishing into a collaboration into both our event today. And she also spoke at a women in tech group that I chair. So I am so excited that Jessica is here today and that she is diving in both feet into our CCO community. So to tell you a little bit about Jessica, Jessica is a certified professional coactive coach and vice president of team member development and engagement at Lifetime. With over 25 years of leadership development, talent strategy, and employee engagement, she has worked with leaders at all levels, from executives to emerging managers, helping them navigate career growth, team leadership, and organizational change. Jessica is known for her candid, insightful approach to leadership, cutting through complexity to deliver real, actionable strategies. Passionate about helping individuals step into their full potential, Jessica equips individuals with the mindset shifts, skills, and strategies they need to move forward with confidence. So, whether supporting career transitions, which we'll talk about today, overcoming limiting beliefs, which we have a little bit of that in here today too, or helping leaders rethink how they develop and support their teams, her work makes organizations stronger and leadership more human. We, when she's not coaching, Jessica enjoys paddleboarding, interior design, and spending time with her husband Ryan and her tuxedo cat Frankie. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Jessica.
Thank you, Carla. Just like Carla's, if you follow Carla on LinkedIn, you know her dogs are a part of the cast of characters in her brand. And I always have to mention Frankie, my tuxedo cat. We tell him every day that we love his suit. He looks so fancy. So, really appreciate you all jumping on today. I love this topic. It's something that people at any age and any stage struggle with. And we were even chatting a bit prior to the event getting started about the fact that sometimes people really niche into this career coach area, but often, even if that isn't your specific niche as a coach, that is a topic that comes up for people as they're feeling stuck or they're trying to move forward and they're not really sure what to do. This is also a session if you're a leader of people, because leaders of people are also coaches. Coaching is one of the tools in your toolkit as a leader. So I'm going to speak from that perspective of you all as either coaches or leaders or both, and talk about ways that you can support your clients who are feeling stuck and want to have more control and take charge of their career growth. So we're going to start with this image here. And I have kind of an unpopular opinion when it comes to being in the talent development space, and it is that I hate the metaphor of a career path. I hate it. And it's for this reason, because when we hear the phrase career path, I conjure an image much like this one, where the path is before me. It's clear. I can even see pretty far down the line here of where that journey is going to take me. But the problem is that in reality, it feels a lot more like this a lot more often. And that's why I have such a problem with that metaphor, is because then people start to wonder, well, what's wrong with me? Why don't I see a path? Why doesn't it feel like a path? Instead, it feels like this overgrown jungle, and I don't even know what direction I'm going. And that's why clients come to you as coaches or as leaders to seek help, and why leaders are so challenged when it comes to employees with these questions, because the employees are looking to them for answers. Well, what do I do next? Well, when? Well, how's it going to happen? They're trying to find clarity and transparency. And often the leader doesn't know how to manage that conversation either. Heck, sometimes the leader, it feels like they're lost in the middle of this mess as well. And so they're thinking, I don't know how to help you. I'm lost too. So I want to just have a quick caveat to say, is there a need for leaders to do more here? Yes. Is there an opportunity for us to upskill leaders to be better developers of others? Yes, of course. The leader is not absent in this formula here, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. This isn't a leadership development session. Today is about you as a coach or a leader helping to support and coach your employees or your clients. And we're going to be really specific because I love a webinar where I can get some really good nuggets that I can take away and apply right away. So here are 4 things that we're going to learn today that you can use literally this afternoon if you needed to. We're going to learn about journey mapping and how that can help them take charge of their career growth. We're going to learn about some mindset shifts like Carla previewed. We're going to talk about prioritizing development and what that looks like. And then we're also going to talk about coaching with metaphor. If you are a coach, you know that metaphor is a really powerful strategy to use in coaching sessions, and one that starts to get to other areas of the brain and the body. And so we're going to leverage that as well today. So I'm going to actually get you involved right away, and we're going to do an activity. So I want you to find a piece of paper, or if you're somebody who knows how to freehand draw in some kind of digital way, I'm in awe, and you're going to need to help me learn how to do that. But this can be just an old-fashioned paper and pen type of activity. And I want you to actually put yourself in the seat of the employee or the coachee for now, so that you can experience it, and then you can deliver this same type of activity or strategy with your coachees. I want you to think about how you got here. How did you get to where you are today professionally? And I'm actually going to have you draw or write out the events and the stages that got you to your current role. I want you to focus on milestones, maybe it's pivot points, anything that was a high impact experience. And to get you warmed up, you can see this image that I really just took a picture of with my cell phone and put in here. This is my journey as a modeling for you. So I'm going to walk you through mine, and then you can I'll give you a few minutes to do yours as well. But in 1999, I started out as a high school teacher straight out of college. And that was the only career I ever wanted to pursue. It was an immediate path. In 4 years, I was done with school and in the classroom teaching. I was an English teacher. And throughout the first 4 years, 4 or 5 years or so, I would have these moments where parents would come to me and say, my child is really struggling in your class with reading. How do you help them read faster, they might ask, or understand it more? And I didn't have the answer. And that really didn't sit well with me. I was like, I had this big question. That's the big question mark. And I thought, gosh, I need to get the answer to this question. I should know. Well, it turned out I didn't know, and no one else knew either, because it's a very different specialization to be able to answer that question. And it was a literacy certification. So I ended up going to school in the evenings after I was done teaching school and getting a certification in literacy. Because I had that specialization and I was a secondary teacher, it was kind of a unique combination of skills at the time. And so that took me to the next part of the journey, which was I started doing some adjunct professor work. I did that at Augsburg and at St. Thomas. And then I got into this professional development thing. Again, all while teaching, but these were kind of like these additional opportunities that were coming into my path and I was saying yes to. And all of that led to me becoming a literacy coach in 2010. And for me at the time, that was like the pinnacle of the mountaintop. Like I wanted to be a lit coach. And someday when I got to be that, I was like, I will have arrived. And in 2010, I got this opportunity to do that. And so as I was doing that work, amazing, so fun, I was not in the classroom. I was actually coaching my peers and colleague teachers at a junior high in Brooklyn Park. And it was between the second and third year of doing that I got the opportunity to do a side gig with a local franchisor. And I thought I was just going to go help them get their corporate employees ready to stand on stage and speak. And when I got there, it turns out all they had was a session title and a description, and they didn't have a PowerPoint, and they had 90 minutes on stage, and they didn't have a presentation. And so, unbeknownst to me, I sort of stumbled my way into my first learning and development gig. I didn't even know what learning and development was at the time as a career or an industry or a specialization, but I was doing it. And this turns out the skills I had were transferable into this other area. And so that turned into a year later getting an offer to join that organization as their first director of learning and development. So I did that. And then I did that for several years, loved it, learned, grew, helped to, learn myself what this job was, but then teach the organization what the job was. But in 2020, this would have been July of 2020, when we all thought the pandemic was just about over, right? I got a job offer for another organization. I had decided in January that year that I was just bored and restless, and I knew I had talked to my boss. There wasn't any other opportunity for me to do more of that organization. So I went to another organization. And then a few months later, because of the pandemic, I was furloughed along with my team. So my pack line is a little rocky there, because as you can imagine, if you were impacted by that as well, it was very disruptive and very scary, right? But it turned out during that time, someone called me and said, "Hey, we have this other director of L&D role for you at Lifetime, where I am now, and would you be interested?" And I said yes. And over the course of the few months, that opportunity came to fruition, and I've been there ever since. And then you can see as the rest of my path flows, I've been able to grow, expand my scope, get promoted. All of those things kind of happen because people left the organization, and then I was, kind of there and ready to, be the one to step in. So that's just an example of what I'd like you to do. Now I want you to draw or write out the events or the stages that got you to where you are in your career. And I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. And then I'll come back and we'll kind of reflect on why this is a great strategy for you to use with your clients or your employees. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do that now. Let me know if you have any questions. I can keep an eye on the chat as well. Give you about 30 more seconds to keep working on your path, your stages, your events.
Looks like you have help, Beth.
Yes, definitely. My
Support.
career coach.
That's right. So, as coaches or leaders, a powerful technique to use when people come to you and they feel stuck is to try to connect what they're currently feeling and experiencing to something they've had in the past, an experience they've had in the past, the time where they've felt frustrated or stuck in the past. Because all of us tend to see each unique hurdle in our lives as like very uniquely different, but often something in our past, some experience we've had in our past has some learning that could help us today. And so part of having folks draw this out is it forces them to think about, well, what did I do that got me to the next stage? And what was it? Maybe it was a mentor. Maybe it was saying yes to a one-time opportunity that turned into more unexpectedly, right? Some of those things that have happened in the past in their journey might be things they could apply today. Well, hey, have you thought about getting a mentor again? Or when are you still in touch with that mentor? And so that's a place as a leader or coach where you can try to tap into their own knowledge and skills that they already have. The other thing I love about this is, as I said earlier, I hate the metaphor of the career path. And this normalizes the fact that careers are squiggly. They are not straight lines. They have lots of ups and downs and unexpected twists and turns. And it's a good reminder for us to all know that, yeah, this is just normal. This is how it is. The last thing I'll say is forcing them to draw it or write it down is a really important part of this exercise, because when we talk, we might give all kinds of tertiary details, all kinds of stream of consciousness, but when you actually push them to write it down or draw it, they're having to make choices about what the most important parts of the journey was. So really important to actually do that specific part of the activity. So I'm curious from you all, love for you to just drop a thought or two into the chat. What is it that you're hearing from coachees or employees? What are the challenges or frustrations that they're sharing with you when it comes to career development or growth or advancement? I'd love to hear, what are the themes you're hearing? Awesome. So I'm seeing things like, it's not happening fast enough. When is this going to happen for me? Yes, lack of feedback from their leaders. Right. Where am I going to go? Limited opportunity for advancement. The role that I want has a person in it. They've been here for 100 years already. They're never leaving. What am I going to do? Right? This job's never going to open up for me. I love Rebecca said aligning work with strengths and values, right? We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Balancing that fulfilling life with fulfilling work. Yes, lots of fixed mindsets. Yes, all of those things. Unsure about, well, what does it take to get to the next level, right? Oh, and then Bev, yes, wanting to stay remote while being pressured to be back in person, right? Like, gosh, if this is a value I have for myself now, what does that mean for what my options are and where I can go? And that can be really scary. Well, you're all sharing things that people come through this door behind me and tell me on a weekly basis. So here are some of these additional frustrations. Many of them you've already named, but I have people come in often and say, gosh, I know what I like to do, but I don't really know what that means for me in terms of like what I do next. I like what I'm doing now, but where do I go, right? Someone mentioned this in the chat, and what I hear is, yeah, no one's giving me feedback, but they're also not giving me a promotion. So what is it? I'm doing great and I should get promoted, or I'm not doing great and nobody's telling me. So that leaves a lot of questions and a lack of clarity for people. You all mentioned this, the role I want is currently filled. The time, you mentioned this, gosh, I thought it would happen by now. And then another one is, I keep saying yes to things. I keep taking more things on because sometimes we get that subconscious message. Sometimes it's even a direct message of like, do more, say yes to more, and then you'll get these opportunities. And then what happens is people feel really overloaded. We were talking about balance in the chat. They feel really overloaded and they're not getting anything for it. It's like, what did I do this for? So this is what uncertainty sounds like. You all are really in tune to that. And this is what's causing it. It is lack of communication, both from your client or your employee's side of things and from the company's side or the leader side. Lack of transparency, lack of clarity, a focus on tasks. I did all these things. We're going to talk about shifting that to skills in a minute. Waiting for the leader to make it happen. I hear that all the time. And then these limiting beliefs that people sometimes don't even know that they have. So our goal today is to give you some tools so you can help people shift from uncertainty to more certainty. And so here's the idea. Certainty is going to increase when we get our clients or our employees to shift from a place of waiting, I'm just waiting for it to happen, waiting for my boss, to a place where they have more self-awareness, they're actively building their skills, and they're intentionally growing. So that'll be the next few things that we'll talk about here. So we've done journey mapping. That's one technique and tool for you. Now let's talk about some mindsets. People have some beliefs about what it takes to grow. And I'll say, and some of you know this, you could be the best coach in the whole world. And if someone has a limiting belief that they think, a saboteur belief that's going on in their mind, even the best coach can't coach them through that. We've got to start at that level of belief and unpack that. So because I hear these stories all the time, I'm going to share with you some of the most common beliefs that pop up that you might spot in your coaching as a coach or a leader. So one thing is to stop thinking about career as a career ladder. Similarly to the career path, it's an unrealistic expectation of how things actually happen when you grow and evolve in an organization. And not to mention, not everybody wants this, right? Not everybody is trying to climb a ladder. Sometimes they're just trying to expand their skill set. Sometimes they're just trying to stay interested. Maybe they don't want to manage people. And sometimes they feel like, gosh, is that the only way up? Is if I have to say yes to doing things that I don't want to do? People just want a job that they love. And I want a job I can love and leave at night and come back refreshed the next day. So instead, I encourage them to think rock wall. I'm not a big rock wall climber, but I tried it a couple of times, and I know that the way a rock wall climb works is you make some choices and you go sometimes sideways, sometimes diagonal. Sometimes you go up a direction and then you get to a certain point, look around and think, I don't see the way forward here. So I have to come back down and move sideways again and try a different direction. I actually did a post on LinkedIn about this, and what was really fascinating is people were adding all these other metaphors that they thought were awesome instead of rock wall. And so either use the rock wall metaphor or invite your client or your team member to come up with their own metaphor. Well, gosh, if it's not a ladder, what does it really feel like, right? Another limiting belief is comparison, right? When people are already in a place of frustration, it's been taking so long, they don't know what's next, they start to look around and compare. And not in a healthy way, not in a, gosh, I wonder what Bev did to get there. I'm going to have a coffee with her and find out. No, they start looking around and thinking, why did she get promoted and I didn't? Or why does everyone else get what they want and these opportunities and I don't? I deserve this and no one's giving it to me. And the problem, as you can see with that, is they're focusing all their frustrated energy on tearing other people down and they're forgetting to look in the mirror and just start focusing on what they can control, which is, okay, what can I do for myself? And what am I not doing? Where do I need to start? So that comparison can be really tricky. Another thing I talk about is that time served earns you a parole hearing and not a promotion for a long time. And maybe still in workplaces today, the person who has the most tenure would get the promotion, right? And so people start to believe, like, I just got to show up every day, I just got to do my time, right? And then I will be entitled to this next promotion. I've been so loyal to my boss, to my company. But the truth is, being in a role for a certain amount of time means nothing when it comes to you getting the promotion. It's not about time for your clients or your team members. It's about what they've been doing with that time. How have they been growing and stretching and learning and getting uncomfortable and taking risks and innovating? So talking to your team member or your coachee, your client about, how have you grown in these 10 years? What have you done? How have you changed? How have you evolved? That's where you really want to tap into. And then another is that development is not transactional. And I know it'd be so much easier if it was. People say all the time, what do I need to do? Give me the list. Give me the 3 things, the 5 things, the 10 things. I'll do anything. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Development is transformational. So I'll tell you a quick story. Some of you may recognize this book. I literally had this book. I think it was published sometime in the 1970s. And I was a Girl Scout growing up. And when you're a Girl Scout, you get the sash, which is what's pictured on the cover of the book, and you have to earn your badges. And this book was almost like a recipe book for how to earn badges. Each section was like, okay, you want to earn the, community service badge. Here's the materials you need. Here are the steps you need to take. And then you would mail it in back in the day in the snail mail, and you'd send it in and they'd send you a badge. Well, little Jess, she wanted all the badges and I wanted them as fast as possible. And I would literally flip through that book and I would look for the badges that had the least amount of steps, the easiest path, and I would do all those. I didn't care about the topic. I didn't choose things I really was interested in learning more about. I just wanted to gather all the badges as fast as possible. And sometimes people treat their career development that way. well, what are the most things I can get checked off in the least amount of time? And unfortunately, that doesn't lead to career growth. People start completing tasks instead of building skills. And we'll talk about skills a little bit more in a few minutes and why that's important. This last limiting belief I want to share is the sense that you can't microwave career growth. It's not easy mac, right? It's not something you can do overnight or the 2 weeks before their annual review, performance review. And sometimes that's when that starts kicking in for people. Sometimes it's after the performance review where they think, oh, that didn't go how I wanted. So, now what can I do to catch up, right? Doesn't work that way. It's about prioritizing development ongoing all the time. So I'm curious from you all, and again, you can add a thought in the chat. Which limiting beliefs are you hearing from your clients or your employees? Is it this idea about like, I just don't want to climb the ladder, or I'm trying to climb the ladder? Is it this comparison? Is it, I've been here so long, why isn't it happening for me? So I'd love to hear what you're seeing and hearing from your clients and employees. Yes, definitely that idea of comparison, really, really hard. And that can even happen, not only within your organization, but you might be looking around, they might be looking around to friend groups, right? And family and thinking, how come everyone else is climbing the ladder and I'm not, right? Understanding what skills are transferable. Oh, that, Alan said, feeling that overwhelm of, wow, there's a lot of people out there right now looking for jobs. How am I going to stand out? But, how will I ever break into this, right? Couple of themes around being task focused, right? Awesome. So great. I want to offer you some better, more powerful beliefs to share with your clients or your team members that can help shift that paradigm for them and get them into a place where they're ready for coaching. So here are a few that you can take with you. First, remind them that career development requires navigation, adaptability, and experimentation. It is not a path. It is not a ladder. It is not a straight line. It's very squiggly. There's a great podcast called Squiggly Careers, by the way, so I can't take credit for that. Remind them that tenure is neither a roadblock nor a free pass. So we talked about the client or the employee who's been there forever, but on the flip side, you might have someone who's new in this industry or this career, and they might think, gosh, how long am I going to have to wait till I get the next thing? It doesn't have to be a roadblock, right? Remind them that skill development is about preparing them for new opportunities, not checking boxes to say, I did all this, now what, right? So it's all about the reps and preparation. And then remind them, I would love for them to even create their own mantra, right? Like, I regularly seek out experiences to learn and practice, or I'm doing the work to prepare me for my next role. That might be a powerful end to a coaching session, to have your clients think of a mantra that will serve them better. Okay. So now that we've got some of our mindset shifted and we're letting go of some of those old beliefs that aren't serving us, people want to take action. That sense of productivity is so satisfying. So let's help them take action. The idea here is that new skills will create new opportunities. I see this all the time, even with my own team here at Lifetime, that development can be the first thing that falls off the calendar when things get busy, when deadlines get tight, when unexpected projects pop up. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I meant to do that. And I even had an hour blocked on my calendar, but then such and such thing came up and I, decided I could do it later. Happens all the time, but they're the ones that have to make that choice, right? Like they've got to break out of that idea that this is something that gets pushed aside when other things get busy and prioritize it, right? The other idea or the other thought here is I claim to be a recovering perfectionist, and especially those perfectionists out there or your perfectionist clients or team members, they tend to think development is just for underperformers. Well, I don't need a development plan, right? Like they want to perform like A students all the time. So be aware and have an eye out for that with your clients or your team members. So in order to develop, they have to shift from thinking about tasks to understanding the skills that they have and what they need. And here's why, just a quick why on skills, and then we're going to do another activity. Tasks end, right? Like I do the Wednesday meeting, I put out the report at the beginning of the month. Like tasks end, businesses change, and those tasks that maybe were your signature responsibilities, they're going to go away, client. And so we really want them to understand what skills they have that can stay and be transferred to other things. Skills make people promotable, not just busy, right? Don't just want to be busy with stuff. We want to be growing valuable skills. I mentioned this a little bit in the first one, but work will shift. And if you're working on your skills, then your value remains. It's not like, oh, hey, we don't need that report anymore. We've got a new technology that's doing it for us, right? And then the last is that skills become a common language for your client or employee that they can speak about growth with you, their leader, their mentor. So it becomes a shared language. So we're going to do an activity again, one that you can steal and use with your clients or your team members. But I want you to put yourself again in the role here and imagine that you have won the lottery. And the caveat is this: you cannot collect your lottery winnings and go off to do all the things you dreamed of until you have an amazing person to backfill your role. So we have to figure out what really matters in your role. This is where we're going to get people to shift out of the tasks they're responsible for to the skills that they need to have to do the job. So I'm going to show you this framework, 5 dimensions of a role. I didn't create this. This is something I borrowed from Mercer. This is their international position evaluation methodology. And it's the 5 dimensions of a role. Every single one of us on this call today have these 5 dimensions in our role, regardless of what we do, what industry we're in, what level we're at in an organization, or even on our own. So I want you to do, again, like find a piece of paper somewhere where you can jot down a quick note. I want you to rate yourself in each of these dimensions on a low, medium, high scale, and I'll walk you through it. There's no right or wrong answer. It's the learning you'll get in doing the exercise. So let's start with the first one, which is key, focus, impact, and scope. Think about your current role. How important is it that you, or how influential is your role? How broad is your focus? Are you working with a specific type of client or a whole bunch of different types of clients? Do you have a specific project that you work on, or are you doing things at an enterprise level? And you just decide low, medium, high. Is key, focus, impact, and scope low for you, medium for you, or high for you in your current role? The next one is communication and influence. Again, low, medium, high. How important is the level of communication you have and influence that you have? If you're a coach, right? Communication and influence is probably high in importance, but you can go low, medium, high. Third one is innovation and complexity. How often are you innovating and creating new? How often are you solving complex problems? Low, medium, high in terms of its importance in your current role. Leadership and talent. What level of responsibility do you have in people development or management of other people? If you don't have people reporting to you and you're not doing even any kind of dotted line leadership, then it's low, right? Low, medium, high. And then lastly, knowledge and expertise. How specialized or to what degree do you need specific knowledge and expertise to do your role? Low, medium, or high? And I should have said at the beginning, probably no role is high in all 5, right? They're all going to flex and change depending upon where you are, what you do. The key here is this is going to get your client or your employees to think about unpacking their role in a little bit of a different way. So now, if you are going to be working on your own development plan, based on your low, medium, high ranking, I want you to identify which of these dimensions might be an area of opportunity for you. And look, if it's a low importance in your role, then don't spend a lot of time in it, right? But if it's high importance, gosh, can you really sharpen that saw enough? Like it's something you want to continue working on. So I want you to pick one. And then what you would do next with your client or your employee is to help them build a development plan to get really specific on what it is they want to work on. Because look, if we said communication and influence, that's the opportunity. I want to work on that. Well, it's really hard to set a goal around communication. That's a huge, broad topic, and it's really hard to measure progress and growth. So, what I would invite you to talk with your clients about or your team members is breaking down communication and influence into specific skills. This is where your favorite Gen AI tool can be really, really helpful. Hey, I'm this job, I want to work on communication and influence. What are some of the skills I should work on? As you can see, it would be much easier to set a development goal and to measure progress on meeting facilitation than it would be to just use that broad topic of communication. This is an unpacking of a role that most people don't do, and it is what will get them to a place where they can start to grow and evolve. So I'll feel free to like take a screenshot of this if you want. We won't go through this or try this aspect, but all this is to say, as we talked about at the beginning, there are people who are really focused on being talent development experts or being career coaches, but many people aren't. And so you don't have to go back and get a certification in career coaching. You can use generative AI to help you guide some of that development. So like I said, feel free to like take a screenshot of this if you want. I'm sure you all have ideas for how we can make these prompts even better. But the idea is that you can just plug in and start getting some help with that and moving fast. There's no magical template. There's no magical plan. It's about having bite-sized things people can work on. And then you as a coach or leader are able to follow up with accountability. Hey, how do you want me to hold you accountable to choosing a particular skill to work on? How do you want me to support you in figuring out how you want to practice that, right? All right, so the fourth and final technique or tactic that I want to share with you today before our time ends is the power of metaphor. And like I had said earlier, a metaphor is often something we use as coaches, whether we provide the metaphor or whether we ask our client or our employee to come up with the right metaphor that feels good to them. I'm going to offer a metaphor that I think works really beautifully for career development, and that is the metaphor of the road trip. So, last exercise, I want you to pretend that you are taking a road trip. What are the questions you need to answer in order to plan your road trip? So, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll toss them out to get us started. Like one would be, where do I want to go? Right? Or do I need to have a specific destination? Maybe I just am like, I want to enjoy a cross country road trip through the Smoky Mountains, right? Like, and where I land is where I land. Yes. Okay, great. So we're seeing some questions. Who's coming with me? That is a super important question. Some people might love that quiet time in the car, not me. I'm extroverted. I want all the people in the car with me, right? What is the plan? Where might I stop along the way, right? Do I want to stop and do some sightseeing? Is it about just that final destination? Or if I look at some routes, can I find some cool little, pit stops along the way? I've always wanted to see that giant ball of twine or whatever it might be, right? Where are we going to eat? Rebecca, you are speaking my language. I also include like what snacks am I bringing in the car? What do I need to keep me fueled along the way, right? How long do I want this trip? Like, am I taking the most direct route to get there because time is of the essence? Or can I take a more leisurely trip? Like, what kind of car should I drive, right? Do I want something fast and speedy? Do I want something cushy and, room for all my friends? So all these questions. What will safeguard my transportation? I love that question. What do I want to get out of this road trip? Who can I meet up with on my journey? I love that question. How much can I spend? What's my budget on this journey? So many questions, right? And your mind may have already started seeing the connection to career growth and development, but I'll kind of underline it for you. What I love about the road trip metaphor is it takes people's focus off just that next destination, which is usually why people feel really stuck when they're trying to grow and advance in their career. It's like, but I want to be a director. How do I get there? And it just feels so far away, and that can be demotivating for people, right? The metaphor of the road trip works so well because there's joy in the planning and the journey. That's the half the fun of the road trip, right? Is the planning, the mapping out, the choice making. So it brings more enjoyment and growth in the journey itself. The road trip metaphor also, you mentioned it in the chat, like there's a time component to it, right? Maybe I'm in, Minneapolis area, so maybe I just want to take a trip to a museum. And so for me, that road trip is just an hour drive from my house, right? But maybe I really want to go to Nashville and go to Music Row. Well, that's going to take a little bit more time and planning. So where you want to go can kind of determine the time, and it makes sense when you think about it in the metaphor of a road trip. Road trips also, I don't know if we said anything about this in the chat, but they're also going to include wrong turns. They're going to include construction zones. There's going to be rerouting. There's going to be unexpected things that pop up. Well, this wasn't on the map, right? Or this road changed. And that is true in our career planning too. Like things happen that weren't part of our plan, but now they become a factor in our journey. And lastly, there's lots of routes to the destination. And so I think that again is a good connection to people's career growth and advancement. There's lots of options. And this might tie back to the journey mapping activity that we did, which is how many of those pivotal moments in your journey were part of the plan? How many of those pivotal moments weren't part of the plan? But other factors came in and then poof, this became available to you. So that keeps people hopeful and positive. The last thing, kind of a bonus nugget I want to share, is thinking with your client or your employee about who's in their network. I put leader at the top because typically that is the person they put the most pressure on to help make it happen for them. And as I said, certainly the leader has an important role. But talk with your client or your employee about, hey, do you have a mentor? Do you need a sponsor? Who's a collaborator, like a peer that can work with you? Who's going to cheerlead for you and support you and keep you motivated when you're down? Maybe you're the coach and that's what your role is in this network. I love the networking connector, right? Who do I meet? How do I get to meet people who are doing this so I can kind of break into this space? Accountability partner, critic, challenger, role model, advisor, you see all those options. What this brings to your client or your employee is a little bit of an eye-opening picture of, oh, I need some more people in my corner. And if I'm just going to keep looking to that one person, typically the boss or the leader, right? I am going to feel frustrated and stuck. And I actually need a wider network of people to help me make this happen. So I offer that as, again, another talking point or coaching point you can use with clients. So I'm going to bring us home here and just recap some of the tactical things we've talked about. So first, when it comes to coaching clients or working with your employees, we want to remind them that their past successes might have some great golden nuggets to inform today's challenges. They know more than they think. They're capable of more. They've probably felt stuck before. What did they do? and what maybe is relevant for where we are today. That's where that journey mapping activity can come in handy. Mindset, super, super important. Help explore the mindsets that they have. Is there anything holding them back? I often think that, or I often hear people talk about some of these beliefs as if they are facts. Well, that's just how it is here. It's truly not, but they've resigned themselves to that. So really digging in and uncovering those mindsets that might be holding them back. The 5 dimensions of a role can just help like give them a different lens, a different look at what their job really is about. Most people, like I said, will talk about tasks, things that they complete on a regular basis. But what if we could talk about skills? And what does that open up for us? And the other part of that is prioritizing development. If you're not developing yourself, no new skills, what are the new opportunities that we expect to see, right? And then planning a road trip. This is a fun metaphor. Use the road trip metaphor, use a different one, work with your client to co-create a metaphor that makes sense for the situation that they're in. Metaphor can be playful, it can be creative. If you've done a lot of coaching, you know that coaching is about full embodiment, right? It's mind, body, heart, soul. And so many of us, myself included, we try to solve everything right up here in our heads. And sometimes we need that partner, that coach, that leader to help us break out of that and to start tapping into other resources that we have. And I think metaphor is such an awesome tool for doing that. And then the last piece here for you all is to be one of many in their network. They need more than one champion, and you are going to be an important part of that network. Help them understand who else they need. What roles can you support them in, and where else can they find others to support them and champion their growth? I hope that gives you some tactical, tangible things you can do with your clients, with your employees. It's a really tough topic because it isn't transactional and it's hard for people to feel confident when there's so much unknown, but there's so much more that individuals can take charge of and be empowered by, and you can be an important part in helping them do that. So thank you. I would love to connect with you all on LinkedIn if we're not connected already. Thank you, Center for Coaching and Organizations, for letting me be part of Growth Rings. I'm such a fan of your organization and just love the opportunity to come and share with your community today. So thanks all.
Thank you very much, Jessica. That was fantastic. I know I saw a bit of this in the Women in Tech, and it just adds a different dimension to it, relating to it as a coach. And so thank you for being here today and for sharing this with our group. And thank you everyone for attending, and have a good afternoon.